Saturday afternoon, and we are back out pulling honey in the sunshine, which is very pleasant, but with that comes robbing. We've been in this yard for 20 minutes now. I have Carrie with me, so there's only two of us today, being Saturday. Give the crew the weekend off. So we're working just a little bit slower, and just because of that time, the bees find us a lot quicker. It's not too bad. I mean, they've just found us, and they are up in the honey boxes. You can see we're going to bring a few back home with us. Nothing that the window can't take away. And we have this tarp, so once we have our line drawn here in boxes, put our tarp on, and it really slows down the access to the honey. So the honey has just disappeared on them. These boards have worked really well. Today, maybe they're working a little bit slower. There's not as much flow going on, right? Especially after the last couple days, that cycle within the hive has really slowed down. So you can see there's a few more bees on top of the screen, which generally means there's a few more bees within the boxes. Just we haven't had that. It's really nice when the bees are able to go out and fly and bring back resource, spark up that cycle within the colony. And within that cycle, these boards really shine, because they impede that cycle and they hold them down. But anyways, things are working fairly well. Carrie right now is just taking off the escapes. Here's a pickle patty. They've eaten a line. Isn't that funny? Underneath. Is there a pickle patty on this one too? Yeah, they're eating it. I want to find one of my patties. Where's my patties? I'm not going to waste too much time doing this because I have to look at the cloud of bees over the truck now. I have to kind of move that out of the yard. But my curiosity is getting the best of me. Here we go. Num 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 num. Look at that. We balance out the proteins, we balance out the fats and lipids. We have some nutrients, like some minerals, vitamins in there, and then some rocket juice. So that is going directly down into the brood nest to develop out our winter nest. So we're going to have to be pretty quick. The second patty on here in about a week or so. These girls are going to finish these up in no time. And we'll feed them until going into, probably into September, just as these bees really slow down and restrict their brood nest and start setting up that last little bit of that winter cluster. We want these bees well fed. So these hives, I've pulled the honey back on top, I guess, and took it away from them, and they've been without any type of flow for about 3 days. So I'm just looking down. I'm seeing capped honey, so they haven't starved. Lots of pollen, which is positive to see. And on this side I'm seeing capped brood, I'm seeing mature larvae, and then it stops. So as it rims out, here's all open cells. Just an occasional larvae within. This should be a stage, like this should be 3-4 day old larvae here. Out to eggs. I bet you they've pulled back, I bet you they cannibalized a little bit of brood here. Because what I'm looking at is stored honey, but I'm not seeing the rim of open nectar, open honey, open reserves that I should be seeing. So this colony has kind of snapped back a little bit because I've starved them from any type of nectar resource. I've taken away all their stores. So I got to get that back in here. This is what I don't want to have happen. They're pretty hungry. You can tell that if they're robbing a lot. They're still eating the protein here, so they're still developing out this nest. Pollen's still coming in, so they're still, you know, they're not starved of protein. Just I'm starving them of sugar. I'm gonna have to be a little bit quicker as I pull the boxes off. I'm gonna have to maybe provide a little bit of open syrup for these colonies, just so they have instant access to the sugars when I pull off the honey, just to make sure we're not interrupting any type of brood development. It's extremely important. This nest isn't compromised or anything. It hasn't gone into starvation state. It's just, you know, I've taken away their resource and they've just kind of pulled back a little bit. So I got to make sure as I go through, as we work through the apiary pulling off this last pull of honey, that I don't allow any type of interruption. I allow the continued progression of the development of that nest. I have to make sure that the maintenance of these colonies are adequate. Look at the pollen coming in. That is gold. That is the stuff that I can't replace, right? Sugar is the easiest thing that we can provide for these bees, and in this situation it's the one that's I'm lacking right now. So we just have to put a little more attention to make sure that we're Johnny on the spot, making sure they have the flow. A few days ago maybe we had more flow coming in. I was getting away with not feeding as I put in that last escape. Not anymore. We're going to put a little bit of open feed out to these nests and then follow with pails. Just make sure they're well fed. Sometimes I just don't know what's going on. I try my best. This yard I made a mistake in. Mistake of not adding enough space. I kind of, you know, sensed it when we put escapes in. I'm not taking a look up top when we put escapes. We're just like sliding in that escape and off we go. But the bottom brood box, a little bit more honey than everything else we've been going through. And I found just probably a little more swarming in this yard than anything else that I have in the apiary. And I'll show you exactly why. This yard, I probably should have had fourths on. I mean, I'm looking at cappings all the way down from the top to the bottom there. Looks like I've left some honey in the field from this yard. So what would have happened here is, see, look at that, cappings. Everything's capped all the way down. Another box, maybe even two in this yard, could have taken them. Not that I'm complaining, these will be chocked right full. These will bring my average up per box average. But they filled them up and then they backfilled the nest a little bit, then more than I like to see this time of year. But also, right now, we're pulling honey and there's no robbing. Like I'm done half the yard already. Just nice and easy pulling right now. That last yard, a mile that way, we were heavy robbing, almost panic robbing. This yard, nothing. And they're bringing in nectar, they're bringing in pollen. You can tell just by the way they fly into the yard. I drive into their flight path here at the truck and there's a holding pattern up there. These bees are actively foraging. They're coming in heavy with pollen, little yellow faces. So they're getting it from somewhere. And I'm not sure where. It has to be that direction because that direction is the other yard. Must be an alfalfa field I'm not seeing. Maybe a late canola field. Maybe sunflowers poked over there somewhere. I'm not sure. But anyways, that mistake. It's not a bad thing because everything is chock right full of honey, which is good. Because I hate leaving honey in the field. And I maybe lost maybe another 5 or 10% hives in the act of swarming. But it's bound to happen. See, look at that. Hardly interested. Look at that flow coming in. Not enough to put boxes on, but hopefully enough to keep the pails off them. We'll take a look and see. Here's the front of the colony, packed with pollen, about 2 or 3 inches on the front. Got my big brood nest back here, rimmed with honey. I'm gonna have to pull another frame just to take a look, but they are filling random cells with nectar. This frame's a little heavier. Got some open brood, some pollen. And there's not a lot of open feed. Big frame of brood. Yeah, these guys they have little bits of nectar coming in. Good brood pattern. Just scraps of nectar coming in, but that's not enough. We got to make sure these guys don't starve. So there's little bits coming in. That's positive, but not enough. So we are going to give these guys not a full gallon. We're going to start them out with half a gallon and we'll come back and then see where they're at. Just in case this honey flow increases, we don't want to plug them out yet. But the worst thing that can happen is if the honey flow just disappears. If it is an alfalfa field, it gets cut, and the flow just all of a sudden disappears, and then these guys starve because I'm busy other places in the apiary. So we're going to make sure they have enough feed. We're going to give them half a gallon just to hold them, just to maintain them. drowned.